Have you ever wondered what's going on behind the scenes of our education system? Beyond the classrooms and the school bells. There's this massive, kind of invisible architecture that's shaping literally everything. Well, in this explainer, we're going to pull back that curtain and take a look at how it all really works.
So let's start with a big question. Think about your local school for a minute. Who's really in charge? Who's making the final call on what gets taught? Who's doing the teaching? And, where all the money goes?
Now, the obvious answers, the principal, maybe the local school board, they're definitely part of it. But that's only a tiny piece of a much, much bigger and way more complicated puzzle. The real answer is actually a lot more interesting. And the real answer is this idea called educational governance. It's the whole invisible system, all the rules, the people, the different organizations that basically determines how our schools operate on a day-to-day basis. It's the framework that turns a community's vision for its kids into an actual reality.
Okay, so to really get our heads around this, let's break it down. The easiest way to think about governance is that it sets up the official rules of the game for our entire school system.
And this quote just frames it perfectly. See, governance isn't just about who has the power, it's about creating clarity. It's the process of figuring out exactly who is responsible for what and who's held accountable when things go right or, when they go wrong.
And this chart shows a really crucial difference. Think about it like this. Management is kind of old school, right? It's like a king on a pyramid, making top-down decisions. But modern governance is much more like a round table. It's a collaborative process that involves government, sure, but also nonprofits, parent groups, and just regular citizens. It's way less about control and way more about coordination.
So, if it's not a simple pyramid, what does this system actually look like? Well, I love this term researchers use for it. They call it a crazy quilt. A wild patchwork of different authorities and overlapping responsibilities all stitched together. And this helps explain why it's so complex. Our education system was never really designed from some single logical blueprint. Instead, it was built geologically, just layer after layer over decades and decades, with each new law or policy just kind of getting stacked on top of the last one. It's a product of its history, and that can make things, messy.
So to try and make sense of this crazy quilt, we can break it down into 3 simple parts. First, there's the what. These are the core jobs of the system, the essential things that just have to get done. We're talking about managing the money, hiring the teachers, and deciding what kids learn. Next up, you have the WHO, and this is that huge network of people and institutions who are actually responsible for doing all that stuff. It's everyone from the big U.S. Department of Education all the way down to the principal and teachers right in your neighborhood school.
And just look at this list of players. It's kind of staggering, right? You've got your formal government bodies at every level, federal, state, and local. But the WHO also includes all these other powerful groups, like textbook publishers who are shaping what's being taught, or unions negotiating contracts. Everybody's got a voice in this. And finally, there's the how. So these are the tools and the levers of power that everybody uses. For instance, a state might create a mandate, a rule, that says you have to have a certain number of school days. Or it might offer a financial incentive, like a grant, to schools that try a new reading program. These are the tools they use to actually get things done. And just to add another patch to this crazy quilt, there's no single model for how states do this. Every state is a little different. For example, if you just look at how they choose their top education officials, you see at least 4 different ways of doing it. Some states even mix and match to create their own unique system. It's wild.
Okay, so the system is complicated. It's kind of messy. But why should we really care? Well, because this abstract structure has a very, very real impact on every single student.
This is the absolute bottom line. This entire governance framework, it determines the day-to-day reality inside our schools. It decides the resources in a classroom, the quality of the teachers, the curriculum kids are learning, and ultimately the opportunities that are available to every single student.
And this quote just drives the point home so powerfully. We can have the most amazing teachers and the most dedicated principals, but if the underlying system, the governance, is broken, then creating a great school becomes this constant uphill battle. Good governance makes success the standard, not some happy accident.
So what does good governance even look like? Well, it's usually built on a few really clear principles. It needs accountability, so we know who's responsible. It demands transparency, so we can all see how decisions are being made, and has to be flexible enough to innovate while being inclusive enough to bring in all the voices from the community.
And that brings us to the final and, maybe the most important piece of this whole puzzle, the people.
Because governance isn't just about structures and rules, it's really about who gets a seat at the table.
A really key idea here is something called shared governance. Basically, it's the principle that the people who are most affected by the decisions should be part of making them. It's about moving away from that top-down model to one that's about shared responsibility and really democratic participation.
And when you look at who the stakeholders are, well, the list is long and diverse. It's not just the administrators and the government officials. It's the teachers in the classroom, the students at their desks, the parents at home, and even local employers who are counting on a well-educated workforce.
And the benefit of this is just enormous. When everyone has a voice, the decisions that get made aren't just smarter and more effective, they also have the trust and the buy-in of the community that actually has to live with them.
So at the end of the day, that's what this is all about. Educational governance isn't some dry bureaucratic thing. It is the engine, it's the entire framework that translates a community's hopes and dreams for its children into the actual reality of our schools. It's the invisible architect of our future.
And that leaves us with a really critical question to think about. This crazy quilt system we have, it was built for a different time. So as our world keeps changing, how do we redesign these rules of the game so that they can be more transparent, more effective, and most importantly, more fair for every single student they're supposed to serve?